I think we're good to go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hairitage Talks. I'm Tamekia Swint, the founder and executive director of Styles for Kids, and we are excited to have three special guests here with us today. It is National Foster Care Awareness Month, and this month we are highlighting the work that these fine people have been doing here in the state of Illinois to advance the rights of foster youth and hair care. Let's get right into it. I'm going to quickly introduce them and then we'll get started. First, we have Anita Weinberg. Anita is a law and social justice professor at Loyola University's Chicago School of Law. She co-directs the Civitas Child Law Center and the Legislation and Policy Clinic there. As part of the clinic, Anita involves law students in legislative and policy initiatives that impact underserved and underrepresented children and families. The clinic primarily addresses issues related to child welfare and juvenile legal systems, as well as immigration and educated-related issues. For over 15 years, Anita has partnered with the statewide Youth-Advisory Board of the Department of Children and Family Services as part of this work. Under Anita's supervision, the law students in the clinic, who I've had the honor of meeting and working with, they are amazing. She's working with the Youth Advisory Board members to develop policy priority agendas and draft and advocate for legislation that concerns and impacts children and youth in foster care. And also, we have two of the Youth Advisory Board members, Jocelyn and Niana. Did I say it correctly? Niana. Okay, so Jocelyn is a hopefully soon to be intern for the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services Statewide Youth Advisory Board. She is the oldest of three and a 2024 Bachelor of Social Work graduate from the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, ILL. Yay. In the fall of 2024, she will begin her master's degree program in social work at UIUC. After nearly 10 years within the Illinois child welfare system, her biggest aspiration is to support the growth and success of other youth in care, especially those who have or are aging out, and we are both passionate about that. And Ms. Baker has been an intern for the Central Region on the Illinois State Youth Advisory Board for over 1 year. Her goal is to make a change and advocate for unheard foster youth. She entered foster care at the age of 8, and her experience motivated her to pursue a career in social work. And she aspires to become a history teacher who teaches Black American Studies. She is a second-year student at Illinois State University, working with schools like Loyola, the director of the DCFS, and state legislators. And a direct quote from you. I love this. Even when I started to create change, I began in neighborhoods and schools on my own, which resulted in receiving awards from DCFS for advocacy. And this made me realize I have so much potential, not allowing my past to define my life and the direction of my future, but having a good heart and doing the Lord's work, who made me who I am today. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing your insight and your love and your passion for this work and what you're doing to advance efforts here in Illinois. So thank you for being here. So let's open up the conversation and talk about the facts. I'm excited. For those of us in the audience who've never heard of HB 5097, Anita, what is it?
So HB 5097 is a bill that was introduced into the state legislature in February, I think it was, initiated by the Youth Advisory Board members, and it specifically focuses on the hair care of youth in foster care, both youth in foster homes as well as in residential settings, any youth who are under the jurisdiction of the Department of Children and Family Services, which would be youth who came into the system based upon allegations of abuse or neglect.
Yes.
And the bill specifically focuses on two aspects, really. One is that when youth enter care, any foster parents, any caregivers who are caring for young people need to understand hair, need to understand the significance of hair maintenance and hair care, both in terms of culture, identity, and health.
Yes.
And so one is the training, and the bill requires that caregivers be trained. And the second is that every time a youth comes into care and then regularly following that, there's always a case plan developed for youth when they enter the foster care system, and it's reviewed every 6 months and updated. And that case plan must now include a plan specifically focused on hair care.
Yes.
And that plan's supposed to be developed with the youth, and then with their parents and or with their caregivers in terms of what the plan will be, what the needs of the youth are, what their interests and desires and wishes are, and figuring out what makes most sense and what's going to work for the young person while they're in foster care.
It's just absolutely amazing. And I'm just honored to be in the room with you all. And I know that this has been a long time coming for you guys on this work that you've been doing. So thank you so much. I love this statement that you guys sent me a fact sheet, and it says hair care and hairstyles are the key to self-expression, identity, and connection to race, culture, gender, religion. Children removed from their homes lose a piece of that while they're in foster care. And you know, we as Styles for Kids, we get to see that in action every day as we're working with youth who are coming into the salon who are in homes where parents have no idea. Their parents have no training, no experience, and just really just trying to figure out what am I supposed to do here, you know? And so I love that. So tell us a little bit, Anita, about who's supporting the bill.
So the bill actually is really moving. We're very excited. It passed out of the House. We made some changes to it when it was in the Senate. It passed out of the Senate on Friday.
Woohoo!
49-9, I think, after over an hour debate.
Yes.
And it is going back to the House, and we expect it to pass this week.
That's amazing.
So we're really excited. And I have to say that in many ways, passing legislation can take years.
Yeah.
And one can have an idea and be working on it for years before it gets to to become a bill, and then let alone be passed. So while this was a long time coming, the process, how fast it got through the legislature is really wonderful and remarkable. It doesn't necessarily move that quickly. Who's supporting it? We ended up having, well, it was initiated by members of the Youth Advisory Board, and then we have a large list of not-for-profit agencies. There's the Illinois Collaboration on Youth, which is a member agency of child welfare agencies. And the member agencies supported the bill, as did many of those child welfare agencies, as well as I'm going to leave people out basically, but Chicago Coalition for the Homeless, ACLU, the Cook County Public Guardian's Office, court-appointed special advocates, Illinois, the Foster Youth Alumni Association, both the national one and the Illinois-based one. You're looking at the list. You're probably going to see more than
Moran Center, is it? Moran Center for the Youth Advisory, the Office of the Cook County Public Guardian, the Shriver Center on Poverty Law, ACLU of Illinois, Ascend Justice, Brightpoint, Civitas, the Chicago School of Law, the Foster Care Alumni of America, Foster Care Alumni of America, Illinois chapter.
And in the end, the Department of Children and Family Services as well.
And as well as the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services. And please do not forget Styles for Kids.
Yes.
We are 100% behind you.
Well, and you really helped us in many ways, because when we made that connection and started to learn about the work that you were doing, we have been able in our advocacy to say this is not really a huge lift.
That's right.
It's
not a new program.
It's not a new program. It's doable. There are people who know how to train. There are people who, this is a specific mission.
Yes,
and so we can be building on that.
Yes, I love it. And I'm just excited to be a part of it and to see it keep moving forward. So I just have to ask you, what compels you personally to work on this legislation, and why is this work so important to you?
So, to be perfectly honest, when we've been working with the Youth Advisory Board now for many, as you said, many years. And it's probably, I work on lots of projects with students. We have several going every semester, basically. It is probably my very favorite group to be working with. And it's because it's a combination that I love my students being able to meet the young people on whose behalf they're doing a lot of the work that they're doing in many of their kinds of projects that they work on. I love working with the youth because, as you emphasized really in your introductions, you really are a group of people who take your own life experience and don't just focus on yourselves, but truly think about it in the context of how can you use that experience, the good and the bad, to want to make a difference in other people's lives. And every single time we meet, and over all the years, I have just been really overwhelmed by that. And so I love the work regardless. I love the people that I'm working with. This particular project, when it was first mentioned to me and said we need a bill to address hair care, I was like, I'm really going to go to the state legislature and ask for, the General Assembly and say we want a bill about hair. It just felt like, why don't we just work this out with DCFS, with the Department of Children and Family Services? Do we really need legislation? Yes. But the more I talk to members of the Youth Advisory Group, and the more I talked to colleagues and talked to some legislators, the more I became more and more committed to this is an issue that maybe we should be able to be working out with just the department, but it's actually a topic that needs a lot more attention and a lot more understanding, and really understanding the connection of hair to culture and identity.
And it's part of the education piece. Because if you don't push for that, then there's no education taking place about why this is important.
Yes, exactly.
So thank you so much. I mean, I just can't thank you enough, for jumping in with both feet and getting this done. So tell us a little bit about where your efforts are headed so far. So we know that the bill has passed one stage, but we have a little bit more to go, right?
So it's passed. So I think that I don't want to jinx this.
Okay.
We have no reason to think that it will not be passing this coming week.
Okay.
The legislature is supposed to adjourn next week, and we have no reason to think it won't happen. But passing legislation is actually, in many ways, as challenging as it can be, sometimes the easier part. It's the implementation and enforcement of the laws that can get even more challenging and difficult. So we have a commitment from the Department of Children and Family Services. Part of what the bill requires is there are a lot of details that have to get worked out, just not in terms of making sure that there's going to be training or case plans, but how that's going to happen. And that happens in what's called rules that get generated and written by the department. And we have a commitment from the department's director that some of the Youth Advisory Board members will be able to be a part of those meetings where they are thinking through what's going to be in these rules and how are we going to really put into place what needs to happen to make sure that the training occurs, that the training includes what it needs to include. There are many child welfare agencies and foster parents across the state. So it's how do you make sure that all of them have access to training, have access to the resources that they need, the information that they need, and then making sure that all the caseworkers who are working with youth know that as part of a case plan, there has to be this hair care plan and understand the importance of it, the significance, and what those discussions need to look like.
Absolutely.
So it's that.
So especially for what I see on our end, especially are the parents who are in the more rural areas, in rural settings where there may not be any, it is a true desert. There's no resources there. And then you have a child and you want to help them, but you don't have anything, so you really got to figure out how do you work those pieces out as well.
And that's part of when we learned about your program and video, YouTube and videos, and there's so many different ways to train and educate people.
100%.
Resources.
So how will the bill ensure that caregivers receive adequate training in culturally competent hair care practices to support foster youth in expressing their identities through hair? And we know that is critical to a child's development, is that they're able to use hair as a form of expression. How are you planning to move that forward?
that's going to be a part of what's going to have to be figured out.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
but that's, and I don't mean to keep saying this, but
Yes.
that is why we're looking to you in many ways. I mean,
Yeah.
it really,
Yes.
because you've been doing that.
Right,
And this is not
exactly.
an ad for
Right,
kids,
exactly.
but you really have been. And that made it much, as I said, that really made it much easier for us to be pushing this. That's something that's going to have to be figured out. And it's part of why I'm really glad that representatives from the Youth Advisory Board will be sitting with DCFS and talking about what they think needs to be shared and what information, what needs to be understood. Because I think we're working with a whole range of caregivers and administrators, some of whom completely get it and want to do what's needed.
Yes.
Some of whom, and know what to do.
Yes.
Others of whom want to do what's needed but don't know how to.
Yes.
Others who don't really understand the significance and the importance of hair care and hairstyling.
Yes.
But are open to learning, and others who are going to be pretty resistant.
Yes.
And it's also figuring out
Resistant to
how
the
to get to
information.
them.
Yes.
So that's the challenge. But I
Yeah.
think that we're in a really good place to go forward, and I think that there's a new director of the Department of Children and Family Services who spoke passionately, really, about this bill when it was being heard in the Senate committee.
I love
And I
that.
think that we really have their buy-in into the
Yes.
importance of this.
Well, thank you so much. And we're going to turn that over to the Youth Advisory Board now, who's been working on this so hard. And I know that you're beginning to see the results of your work. And I know that's an encouragement to you guys. So I just want to ask you guys a few questions about your experience. Could you share your experience or stories highlighting the importance of hair care and hairstyling as a form of self-expression and identity, either for yourself or other youth who you've been working with?
I do want to highlight someone else that testified on the at the committee too. Sanaya Jones, she also testified, and she was basically speaking about the gender aspect of it, because some foster parents, they believe that some of their foster children should stick to what hairstyles that pertains to their biological gender. And she spoke out saying that it's a form of expression because it's herself and what she believes in for herself, and for other foster youth out there that also identifies with the LGBTQ community as well. So that was one of the things. One thing that I did say myself when I testified was my younger sister's experience. She, at a young age, when we was transferring in different foster homes, she got a rare case, like a really bad case of psoriasis, and her scalp was having rashes, burns. It was bad. Like she was bleeding at her scalp all the time. And my foster parent basically didn't have like transportation to take us to the hospital, didn't have no time off. And because, as Black Americans and having a foster parent that's like ethnically different than us, she didn't know what to do, like as far as taking care of my sister's hair. My sister has very coarse hair, so she really just wanted to chop it all off after that point instead of taking care of it. But after a while, we reached out to school. They got us help, and that was one thing I spoke at the testimony, is like, when you're going through all that kind of different stuff, especially as a young girl, between like 7th grade, growing into, a teenager, it's like you're in that period of life where everything bothers you, and it's like a big reflection of insecurity when you're going through these things, especially if you're at school too as well. And it's like different mental issues come along with it, like having body dysmorphia with yourself, low self-esteem, borderline personality disorder, a whole bunch of things that come along with it. So that was one of the big things that I highlighted when we was testifying, and they really liked it. I believe her name was Miss Turner, I believe. Senator Turner. She spoke out about how young Black girls, when they're going out to, especially in the foster care system, when they're getting psych evaluations, they're often misdiagnosing these black girls and black boys because, you know, they're seen as aggressive or whatever. They have to do this, that, and the other. But without actually having a proper training, especially with having generational trauma within the black community and stuff like that, it's often that they misdiagnose people of color in general as bipolar or angry or aggressive instead of really, you know, taking the time to really understand them. So so what she says that you have to start listening and you have to start taking action, because in the long run, this is how it starts to aggression, and this is how generational traumas keep going, because no one's sitting down to listen, you know.
Absolutely.
So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this so much. It's just different things. So
Yeah. Jocelyn.
I'm actually new to the Youth Advisory Board. I think I went to my first meeting in April. So this started way before me. But during my first meeting, Yana spoke about the hair care bill and what the Youth Advisory Board was doing. And I think it was our similar background of being an older sister. And I know, due to my hair's texture and due to the way my hair falls, my hair would not be cut if I was struggling with alopecia or if I was struggling with a physical illness. And so that was a big thing where I was thinking of my sister, and if I had to see her go through that, I would be enraged, I would be hurt, and I would really not like the people who did that. I felt all of those things coming from her as she was explaining the hair care bill, and I was like, I want whatever she wants. I want that for her. I want that for her sister. I want that for anybody who has to go through something like that, because that wouldn't be my experience. And I know it wouldn't be.
Absolutely.
Right? It is the lack of training, it's the lack of information, and it's the lack of care, especially in cross-cultural placements. And so all of that stemmed from her. So she's the reason why I'm here and why I want to be part of the Youth Advisory Board and why I want this to be everywhere, and not just in Illinois, but nationwide.
Yes, girl, yes, come on now. We want it everywhere.
Because, like, as she was saying, like, it's not just a physical thing. It's not just an appearance thing. It is a mental health thing. It is an emotional health thing. It's not just hair we're talking about. We're talking about self-care. We're talking about the way people see us and our professionality. And so it's so much more than just shampoo and conditioner or a haircut or maintenance. It's an expression.
Yes.
Of everything we talked about earlier, religious, gender, culture, all of those things. And so that's why I'm here.
Yes. Thank you so much. And just really quickly, was your placement a cross-cultural placement with your sister? You and your sister?
It was. It was cross-cultural.
Okay. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. I know that has a degree of transparency, requires a degree of transparency. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. So what aspects of the legislative bill that you guys have been working on resonates most with you and your peers in addressing these challenges that they're facing with their texture hair? Like, how is this bill giving you and them an opportunity to address those challenges and actively do something about it that's going to allow them to have a different experience?
As I said before, like, it just gives them the opportunity to be heard. Like, there's many foster youth right now that aren't being heard in homes and are still being neglected in some sort, depending on what type of house they are in or placed in. So having that choice that, hey, can I wear 2 ponytails to school? Can I get some hair products at school or whatever the case may be? Or can I get braids or locks for the rest of the month? I know there are some foster parents that actually comb out their foster child's locks, and within them having the the goal to go home, the biological parents like, well, that's my child, and this is the cultural things. There's some people that believe sister locks and love locks are a form of a soul tie, and especially if you're Caribbean too, like Haitian, Kenyan, stuff like that. So it just gives them the, hey, this is what I want. Can I have this done? And also having the social workers also keeping up with the child too, and making sure they are getting what they need. Because as I said before, there are many things right now that aren't being kept up with the child in general in different foster home situations. Even in residential homes, they don't get the opportunity for many different things that foster home children get already too.
Absolutely. And then I think one of the things that we've seen on this side of it, on the hair care side, is, I'm in a home with a parent who doesn't look like me. And then on top of that, my hair is not groomed. And on top of that, I'm in a community where nobody else looks like me.
Right.
So we have all these issues compounded on top of one another. And in the midst of that, we have a child who's being impacted, and nobody's listening to me and what I need in this situation. And that's why I'm so passionate about what you guys are doing, because you're giving the youth a voice. And that's what I hear you saying. Like, we're saying, listen to me, hear me, and do something about the needs, right, that are existing. And so that's why I'm so excited about what you're doing. Talk a little bit about, and I really want both of you to just speak to that foster youth that's out there, right? This foster youth that you're advocating for, who right now is in that situation, who's in a home where their hair care needs are not being addressed, where there's no one who looks like me. They're not seeing those racial mirrors. I want you to speak to them. What do you want? What encouraging word do you have to give to them?
My encouraging words would be, there are people out there that are fighting for you now, and that even though it may feel like you're alone, that nobody's hearing you out right now, and that there's not an action being taken place, it's gonna soon happen, and there are actions being taken place, and that the patience that we've been having for many years, because this hasn't been a priority for such a long time already as it is, they're finally being heard, and that there will be some change coming soon. So those would be my encouraging words. And also, there are people out there that's feeling the same way you are, and that this is not a lonely fight at all. So we're almost there. We're at the finish line.
Yes, you are. I love it. And Jocelyn, I want you to speak to, I love you taking that empathetic stance, right? You sat in that with him. You said, if this was my sister, this wouldn't be going down, and I want to do something to bring about the change. So what can you say out there to people who may not be in this situation, but they can support, right? So what would you say to them? What word of encouragement would you give to them, and how can they be a part of this work?
Join the YAB. No.
Yeah, that's a part of it.
Yeah,
That's a part of it too.
Yeah.
No, definitely. I think there was one of my peers at the Youth Advisory Board said, a closed mouth doesn't eat.
That's
Okay.
right.
And the entire room went silent. And I think for me, it's, this is something that affects all of us as one. I think youth in care, youth who have experience with care at any age or whatever that looks like, that's a united background. No matter what it was, no matter if you were in for a week or 10 years. And so I think it's important to speak up. Like I said, Yana's sister's story would not be the same as my sister. But I felt it. I think I felt it because she knows how to speak her mind, as we all can hear and see. she's a very impactful woman, but also that's just not, like, I would never want that for anybody, no matter who it was, no matter how old they were. That's just not something I would want. So despite the fact that me, my brother, and my sister all came from the same home, our experiences in care have been tremendously different, especially since we were separated. And so with that being said, this hair care plan also will affect him and the rest of his experience in care. My sister, Yana's sister, if she's still in care. Is she still in care? I don't like kids in care. I'm so sorry. It affects everybody. It's everybody's bill. And so, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing so transparently. I just love you guys, passionate and transparent for the issues, because that's what it takes to keep moving it forward is transparency. Let's talk a minute about the social workers. We know it takes a village, right? We got a lot of people who are in this who are playing different parts, right? So you get your social worker, you have your parents, and people like Anita who are coming alongside you. We have lots of people who are in play here. But Jocelyn, what would you say to the social workers out there who want to join this effort, or even some who maybe don't get it yet? What word of advice would you give them?
I've actually talked to a lot of social workers about this, and I've gotten a lot of support for this from like professors at U of I or just mentors that I've had in the social work field. I think it's very key to point out, again, just the differences of experience. I know that when Nyana and I had testified in Springfield during the Senate reading, there was a little bit of opposition from the committee. And I think that comes from a lack of experience. I think it comes from ignorance, and I think just a lack of respect. And so I would say, again, my hair wouldn't have been cut in that situation, right? But I know that, and that's something that I can say firmly, and that's something that, while I acknowledge that, that's why I'm supporting this. Because it wouldn't be me. It wouldn't be me. My hair doesn't need that type of, I don't even know what they were looking. It just wouldn't be me.
Yes.
But it's still something that needs to change, and it's something that shouldn't happen.
Absolutely.
There should be no tiny child who is going without their hair, and that is the biggest thing.
Yes, it should not happen. I love that you said that. It should not happen. And if we have enough people who would put themselves in the shoes, and that's what you're doing. You're putting yourself in the shoes, and that is commendable. So thank you for doing that. So what resources or support system do you think are essential for caregivers or social workers, people out there who are a part of this community that's helping kids? Like, what resources do you think are needed out there to help them to understand and educate better? That are available now, or you feel like should be available? What resources do you think that they need?
Some resources that I think they should do. One thing that I want to say is that when you're handling kids with hair care needs in general, you have to turn on an empath lens to really get down to the nitty gritty to see the level of need that they have, first of all. And the resources that are out there, companies like Style for Kids, searching it up, websites. There's so many resources out there. I know Paul Mitchell do vouchers. It's just so many things, and also there's people out there that can teach you YouTube videos, staying connected with the social workers, having the social workers educate the foster youth on this is out here and this is what we can do. That's another thing that was part of the hair care bill, is actually every time they have a hair care plan, they get the resources that are out there that are close to them or that they could reach out to get X, Y, and Z.
Absolutely.
So Yeah.
And most people I think most people know this, and maybe they don't. So I'm gonna put it out there. Even some cosmetology schools offer discounted
Yes.
services, right? So sometimes it's just about reaching out and trying to figure out what's available. And I remember when we first started Styles for Kids, I remember sharing this with you, Anita. There were not a lot of resources available for parents at all, and so which is the reason why we exist. But in spite of that, one of the things that some of the parents and I have been talking about is like they were in libraries. I mean, like sometimes you just got to get out there and really do the research, right? Whether or not you're a social worker or a parent, like whatever your role is in helping this child get what they need, you have to be willing to do the work, right?
Well, hopefully this bill is going to make it a little easier in that
and,
regard.
And it's accountability.
Agencies that are going to be doing the work for them.
Absolutely. And it's accountability to make sure it's being done. And that's the part that I love about this bill the most is it's not just lip service. We've been doing lip service for a long time. It's time for the lip service to be over and for us to put action behind where the lips are. Right. And so that's what you guys are saying. We're not just talking about it anymore. We being about it. Right. Okay. And I love that. So for the youth that are out here, let's just say they want to join your efforts because there are some maybe who have aged out, right? And they have been in this position where they, experienced some of these things you're talking about, their hair cut off. I mean, we see all of it, right? We see, kids who, especially young women who are coming of age and then now I got all my hair cut off, and how that's impacting me and affecting my confidence and how I feel about myself and my image. Like, so what would you say to those youth who are ahead of you, right? Who've been a part of the system and who've experienced these things. And now maybe they're feeling the impact of that and they want to get involved. How can they do that? They need to call you.
It definitely should call us. And also, seeing what's out there too, like as I said, it's accountability and the effort. The Youth Advisory Board, Styles for Kids, the UIC, different college communities. We just talked to a social worker that's also trying to get foster kids in universities and adults that aged out the system that are also going through things in school to also have a support group and within universities. So that's what I'm saying. It's just sometimes you just gotta look out and try to grab network and resources and stuff like that. And also, like I said, not putting everything on the social workers, but sometimes we have to because they are the main networking system between foster youth in general to make sure that they are educated, that we have this happening, and without the youth knowing, where can this go?
Absolutely.
So that's what I would say. We're here.
Yes. Please reach out to these fine people. I mean, they are doing a lot, right? And you want to be a part of the solution, and not just talking about the impact, but how can I be a part of the change that's going to make it different for somebody else? And that's what you guys are doing.
And if I can add, there's also a foster care alumni organization, Foster Care Alumni of America, Illinois chapter. I think that's the name of it.
That supports this bill.
Which is also worth looking, who supported this bill. And one can just Google them, and they are also, it's a group of, it's many of you graduating who then become part of the alumni group, and are there to support one another also, and have an advocacy arm.
Yes. I want to talk a little bit more about your work because we, especially at Styles for Kids, we especially want to see, because we have parents reaching out to us from California, from Florida, from Texas, from New York, from New Jersey, from DC, from Philadelphia. I mean, they are all over the place and they are desperate for a solution. And I just commend what you're doing so much to the point where I just hope that it inspires other legislators, other legal systems to pursue this in other states. And I just want you to speak to that person who might be listening to this and saying, you know what, we need to do something about that here. Like, how do they start? What should they do? Where do they go?
So I've actually been starting because of the response to this, really, in terms of what this clearly means to young people in the foster care system, what we were hearing from the legislators who spoke on behalf of the bill. I have to give a shout out really to our sponsors, Kimberly Duclay and Mike Simmons, the representative and the senator who sponsored it. And there were many co-sponsors as well, and many who in that hour debate on Friday spoke out about their own life experiences, shared their own stories, which often were really painful. But spoke about how important this bill was and is. And so I just want to recognize that it takes legislators as well to move this forward. But hearing all that, I've really been thinking about how do we spread the word about what's going on. So for anybody listening, I am happy to connect with anybody in other states to talk about ideas for how to push this forward. From my own perspective, we do have what's called a clinic listserv that I will be posting about this bill, and hopefully there'll be other law schools in other states that might want to take on this type of work. But I'm happy to brainstorm with anybody about how to make that happen.
So you heard her say it right here on the Styles for Kids Hairitage Talks podcast. Contact her.
I also love the model.
That's how you get started. Contact her. She's willing to talk to you. She's open to a conversation. Remember,
I'm very open to a conversation.
We just talked about it. Like, you gotta be seek out the resources, seek out the people that's going to be able to help you keep moving things forward. So I'm excited to and to be a part of helping you. Reach out to me. When you reach out to me, I'm definitely going to get you where you need to be. Okay. So is there anything that we forgot, Anita, that you want to tack on to what's happening here and what's going to be moving forward with the bill?
I think probably the truth. What I want to stress is, one, that this is not only youth in foster care, so it's also youth in residential settings. And a lot of older youth are in residential programs or moving toward independent housing, but they have individuals that they're working with. And many of those youth are living with other people who look just like them, because the reality is that our foster care system, there is a disproportionate representation of Black young people and LGBTQ. And so they are living with people who look like them. They're often having caregivers in those residential programs who look like them, but still they are experiencing the same kind of lack of attention to caring for their hair, or lack of understanding of the significance of it, or people get overwhelmed with thinking about all the other things youth in foster care need and set aside hair as though it's not as important. But for all the reasons that we've been talking about, it's at least important, if not more so, because it's going to impact your mental health, and it's going to impact your ability to be going to school and how you do in school and health and all. And so I lost my train of thought just now. But so so they forget the importance of hair care and the significance of it. And so this bill is impacting those young people as much. And they were several young people who sit on the Youth Advisory Board are in residential programs and were very much a part of these discussions and the negotiations as well. So I think that's a really important piece to also stress, that we're talking about all youth in the foster care system, not just ones in foster homes.
And you're making an excellent point. I remember, because we do also provide services for children who are in residential facilities. And I remember there was one young lady that had the honor of serving, and she shared with me, she said, "Miss Tamekia, I already live in a residential facility. I'm already on the white van. I already don't have parents. And then my hair." And I mean, it ripped me to pieces internally. And at the age of 8 and 9 years old, this is her daily struggle. And then you guys are upset that her grades are not well in school. I mean, she's already dealing with a huge mountain before she even gets to school.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So we got to deal with and help with what parts of that we can lift from children.
Exactly.
So that they can do their best. We got to set them up for success, right?
Right.
And so this, go ahead.
That's
jump right in.
Piece related to that, is the healthcare piece of it. So this bill also is going to be addressing hair care and hair treatments for young people who are experiencing cancer and cancer treatments and hair loss and alopecia and lice.
It's
and
very broad.
It's really attacking all those different kinds of needs.
Yes, this is so wonderful. Is there anything that you guys want to run in closing, want to share that you're excited about as far as the work that's coming ahead of you or the impact that it's going to have on youth moving forward? Anything that you want to share personally as we wrap up?
I just want to say that I'm glad that this happened, that like I said, we're almost to the finish line and we're tackling these goals. And it's like there's so many things that youth and care tackle already. And it's like this is one of the big ones that our sponsors and our supporters are now hearing and now on our side and now actually moving forward with us. So now it's like not only the trust of us that are on the youth advisory board, but the other you got the trust of the other thousands of kids that are in foster care, that even some that are now alumni now that are growing to trust that, hey, this change is happening and there's a brighter side to everything, because there's sometimes it's like as a foster child, it's already thunderstorms, It's seeing that there's someone listening to you. It's like there's always the sunny side of things. So even though me as myself, almost aging out of care, it's like seeing new foster youth being able to experience the things that I wasn't able to experience is very rewarding. And that's why I said earlier, like, even if you're older and you are a supporter of us or anything like that, to please reach out, because, even foster kids, people who are in residential settings, they are not seen. They are not being seen. And we hear that so much all the time. So having people out there that say, hey, I'm here and this is what we can do and this is what we're going to do, and having people like Miss Anita and Be Strong Families and the Department of Children's Services and all our other sponsors that we are grateful and blessed to have, it's like now you have the trust of us, and now we can move forward with new and better priorities so we can make the child welfare system better, So it's just very great to hear, and I'm very blessed because of my own experiences too as well.
Yes, and I love what you said. Listen, I'm going to challenge everybody out there. Get on the sunny side of things. I love that. Get on the sunny side. And what closing thoughts do you have out for anyone out there, Jocelyn, who's listening to this?
If you are passionate about advocating for change, if you're youth in care and are demanding or wanting change, join the Youth Advisory Board in Illinois. There's 4 regional locations. Get on that. We want you. We want to hear your voice. Everybody wants to hear your voice. Yeah. 2, thank you to sponsors. We wouldn't have gotten this far without you guys. Thank you, Anita. Be Strong Families, because I think that was, like, we had our voice, but I think you guys pushed us. You guys also supported us. Thank you guys for everything. And lastly, what if it was you? What if it was your sister, your brother? Think about that, especially if your hair looks like mine, or it feels like mine, or it waves down like mine. What if it was you? And how would you feel? And use that and fight with it and voice that. So,
man, that's amazing. I love it. And so she just told you guys join the effort. And so we'll be expecting you guys to do that. Just a few reminders here. Please support this bill and support the efforts of this board who's working on that. And Anita, she's already told you to call her if you're in another state and you're interested in moving forward. And most importantly, educate yourself. It's important to get the information and to support Styles for Kids. I encourage you to do that. We're about supporting youth who need hair care, who are in transracial, adoptive, and biracial communities who desperately need a solution. And so you want to be a part of that. So join Styles for Kids efforts, yes, in this community and beyond. Make sure you follow Hairitage Talks on Instagram and follow Styles for Kids. on Instagram and YouTube. And we'll be back in a few months with another edition of Hairitage Talks. Thank you for joining us.